Hello, welcome back to Inktober. I am Candi VanDerWerf, otherwise known as Sugar Cards on Instagram and Facebook. And I am going to do a video today on ideas with fog ink. So first I just thought I'd show you what the color looks like if you haven't used it before. The direct to paper method. There's that. And I'm going to grab a solid stamp. I just have this really basic cheap heart. That's what I like to use when I am doing a swatch. And I thought I'd show you the fog ink in those. Of course, this is darker and it's wet. This is a lighter color. And then I'm going to grab a blending brush here quick too. And I would show you quick the color as it's blended. So I just grabbed a piece of scratch paper to do this part on. So usually I like to do blending on a little bit fancier paper. I think this is just scratch paper, but I thought I'd just show you quick those couple of things. All right, so we're going to get right into it and get started. I thought what I would first do is we're going to pretty much make some kind of winter themed cards. I'm kind of in the Christmas spirit here. And I am going to do my ink blending to start. I don't care if it's perfect. I just want, I'm going to load up my brush here. And I'm just going to go in and be kind of basic. And all that good stuff. You know, I don't want it to be super dark all over, but I don't want it to be very light either. I just want the hint because I'm kind of trying to create kind of a night foggy sky, but yet I don't want a super dark night. I'm not going to worry too much about the bottom because I'm going to cover that up with some other things. All right, so we've got that. And then I've already pre-cut some hills and snowbanks. And I'm just going to give the tops of these just a little color. I'm trying not to add up any ink on my brush, just to give it a little bit of color. I need to cover up. I had a couple small ones here. I'll cut those down. And then we got our snowbank that's in the back. I'm topping some of this off over on the side here because I really want this light at the top. I just want a little. And then I think on this one we're going to go around just a tiny bit on the bottom. Just a little bit. But the other two won't matter because they're going to. And there you can kind of see there's some color there, but yet it's still white. So next what we're going to do is we're going to put that away for right now. We're going to create some snow. And to create this snow, I'm going to make a mess, basically. So I make sure nothing that I need is going to be covered up. And I got some this is the Sporting Sun Kaleidoscope powder. If I can get it open. There we go. I tend to be very tight when I do these things. And I'm just going to grab a tiny bit on there. You can kind of see how pretty that is. I don't know if the light will catch that or not. We don't need a lot. We're basically just going to put a little bit of shimmer on. I may grab a little more in a minute because I haven't quite decided. I changed things up a little bit, but all right. So we're just going to add some water to it, and I'm going to squirt it around, and I'm just going to tap it. I know it's going to be very light. You're not going to see much of that here, but I'm going to add just a little bit. Tap it a little harder. And we're just going to add a little bit of light here and there. You know, it's just going to have a hint, but I'm going to take the top of my brush and I'm going to brush the top of each of my little snowbanks here, right where I edged up with the fog ink, just to give a little bit of extra sparkle right in there. And then anything else, let's just quick. There we go. Okay. So we'll put that off to the side and I will clean up my area here quick. We're going to have a couple kind of, not necessarily monochromatic cards, but gray is a perfect color for just some softness. So we're going to go ahead and glue this down. I just changed my glue gun here. And we're going to put, I need to measure. So I have this piece of gray cardstock town that I had just sitting around, and I thought I would use that. So we're going to stick this one up a little bit higher to the up here. We might have to cut it down just a hair. All right, and then we're going to put this one down here. And then we're going to put this here. And then I got my two little snow things in here. And we might cut this down just a hair, but yeah, let's see if we can move that down just a bit. I didn't push it down all the way. All right, so I'm going to put that there. I'm just going to kind of lay this in here for right now. I wanted some dark and light, so I used some of the Yellowstone cardstock to fill in and the Eclipse black for the shadow things. And like I said, this has just been laying around my desk for a while. I think it's been a couple years I've had it, so I just thought, good time to use it up. It's gray, so it'll match our fog ink. So I'm going to line up our snowbank here, and I grabbed a sentiment from the Heaven and Nature Sing, and I'm going to use the actual Heaven and Nature Sing stamp set. So I'm going to zoom out, I think, just a little bit here. You have to ignore my blue tape. That was just so I could see where I was on camera. And let's see here. What else do we need? We need some Post-it note tape. So it's a little trick if you've never seen this before. I'm going to grab this Post-it note tape and we're going to cover up. I just tore it in half because I don't need it all. All I want is the sentiment. So we're going to ink up the sentiment. And I did not want to cut the stamp. I mean, some people do. I did not want to cut this one. So we're going to ink it up with the fog ink. You know, this is just normal stamping, you know, that you would do. Remove that Post-it note tape. And we're going to stamp it down. And we're going to just see if we need to do one more. Looks like maybe one more. So I'll put the other half of the Post-it note tape on. And we're going to ink that up one more time. Hopefully we're all lined up right. Ooh, 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 almost forgot to take that off. All right. Perfect. Okay, so there's our sentiment. Let's move that off to the side. And we're going to get us self-flowing here. All right, so we got to leave this for placement for right now. I'm going to put this down here. Let's get our glue on our little town here. And we're just going to glue it down. I'm just adding a little glue because liquid glue is can really hold in place if you You just use little dabs. A little dab will do ya. I think that's what, I heard that somewhere. I can't remember. I heard that on a YouTube video on another crafter, or who did I hear that from? And then we're going to go ahead, and I've got my rainbow tweezers here. Hold that in place. And we're going to stick that down just enough. We're going to use this other piece for placemat because I want to cover up right. I don't want to cover up too much of the buildings, but just enough right here. All right, so let's get that plate in place. All right, next what we're going to do is put in our little hills. And we're just going to glue those down. And you may cut some of it off. I just wanted to cover up. There's a little spot here that my hill didn't cover. You know, like that. And then same thing on this side. I think I'm going to cut a little bit of this off. I don't need all of that. And quick put that down here. A little bit more snow on this side, huh? This side of town. And then I'm going to go fairly flat. I don't need a lot of dimension, so I'm not going to pop this up or anything. You could, but I'm just going to go ahead and glue us down, my sentiment down. And we're just going to layer it up so it kind of covers up my little road here. We'll line it up as best we can, see what that liquid glue moves over, and then we're going to go ahead and cut off the excess. I love how the fog ink, you can make it super, super dark, or you can make it super, super light. And so it's kind of a cloudy night, wispy winter sky. All right, let's cut down just check the edges here. Yep. Check the edges there. Looks like we need a little bit extra there. We need to cut that off. I'll use the scissors. And then we'll go ahead and get in our card base, which I need to grab. I did not grab one. I don't know if I have any side card bases left. This card's more based on a side base. Let's check here. Yep, I have one right here. Okay. Let's quick put that down, and then we've got a very, very, very simple Christmas card. You could change this up to any kind of, you know, warm winter wishes. You could have a happy birthday wishes, thinking of you. You know, you could add clouds in the sky. You could add everything. You could add trees, you know, or birds, things like a moon. I just wanted to go very basic and focus on using that fog ink and on a little bit of the accents. And I matched it with a gray cardstock. Look at that shimmer. And we have card number 1. All right, let's start card number 2. So for card number 2, I kind of have some of it ready already. But I thought, because I did a lot of die cutting off camera, to save some time. But I figured, and here's another idea to use with fog. Grab a stencil. And this stencil is the, forgive me, I can't always find it, Art Deco Arches Slimline stencil. And I'm just going to tape it in place. I'm not worrying about using any like pixie spray or anything with this because it's not going to matter. You know, I'm just going to blend. So your second way to use some fog ink would be ink blending. You can do it the way we did it on the last card, direct, you know, just on the paper. Or in this case, we're just going to go ahead and blend it on through a stencil. And the reason we can do this, and you can go as light, ooh, it didn't, it moved. It moved. It moved. Let's get that set back up. All right. I don't like to tape my stencils down to my table because I tend to want to be able to move them around like this. You can get better directions all over. I go in circles, depending on the stencil. I'm not worried about the sides because we're going to cut that off. And we're just going to quick do this. And you can go, like I said, super dark, super light. I'm going to just go ahead and do it quick. It's going to be quite light, I think. And then let's reveal what we got. See, I know it moved a little bit, but this is just this. I'm not going to use this one because I already had one pre-done. But you see how it's just a nice subtle background. If you wanted to soften it, you could go ahead with your whatever's left on your ink on your brush, or go ahead and grab a little bit, dab it off to the side. I like to use a glass media mat or something that's non-porous so that I can pick up my extra ink and not let it get wasted. And you could soften that a little bit. Now, what we can do with this one is we can, after I remove this, let's move this to the side. We are going to, I have my card base all ready here because I have the card panel kind of ready. We're going to do something else with the fog ink. So, through the magic of already, I have my card panel cut down, and I stamped the sentiment "Joy to the World" from the Heaven and Nature set on some vellum, and I coated it with some clear, or with the telephone ink, and then I coated it with clear embossing powder. I went through my stash and I cut various vines. I have a little bit of vellum down there, and flowers, and I've got this kind of set. Well, if you put this on here, it's kind of boring. So what we're going to do is we're going to do direct to paper. We're going to make a background to your side for it. Now we're only going to see the sides. So we're just going to swipe this down, and I'll turn it over. We'll swipe this one down on this side. Sometimes I like to move my ink pad around since I've been doing that. And then that's all we needed to do. This is another one of those where we could add some sparkle. Maybe we will do that. I'll grab that same kaleidoscope powder and get my dual tipped brush, and we'll put it on. And put it on because the ink is still a little wet. And then we'll just go ahead and brush that off. Like I said, you don't need a lot because we're only going to see the edges. We don't have to worry about the middle. And then we'll cover that up so we don't spill. And I'm going to just set the spray with just a little water. Wave it around to dry while I clean off my table. And we're going to go ahead and get this matted on here. And we're not quite done there yet. We're going to add just a little bit more. So obviously things in threes are always better. So I have another thing. All of my die cuts were cut with either vellum or just white ink. Because I love how you got that subtle background from the arches. And then we're going to go ahead and kind of give us this nice little background. And then we'll get this on here. We got there. I just grabbed, cut out the stems as I laid them out, just in circle function, cutting them if I needed to. We got that. And then what we're going to do to finish this card off is I've got just a few other things here. I got one more little flower. We've got some red berries. We'll see if we like those or not. But what I did is I took a small blending brush and the fog ink, and I'm going to smush the fog ink, which you won't be able to see very well on screen because it's but it's wet here. And I took my little brush here, and I'm just going to color. So we bring more of that gray into our wreath. And I colored very deeply in the middle. And then I brushed it out towards the sides so that out towards the sides, and I wanted a more gray flower than a white flower, but I didn't want it so much gray. And then for the little flower, I kind of concentrated on the tip of it to make it really dark there. I'm going to push a little bit off on the side here. I can't quite see where I had it. And I want the tips quite dark. And then we'll go light in the middle. And then once I get that done, I just kind of took what was left on my brush and brushed it over the whole thing. You know, so it was, there's a little bit there, but there's some white too. Okay, and clean that up. And then we're going to go ahead and add these together here. So you can use, you know, use your colored ink, use your ink to coordinate your flowers. You know, cut them out of white and you can make them match. You know, give them just a little bit of shading. All right, I'll get that. Oops. The ink is a little wet, so it doesn't always like to stay together when the ink is wet. And I just put it down, the glue in the middle, and then I'm going to add a little glue, and I've got some, I don't remember if these are the which ones of these, I will link them in the bottom, which one of these gems these are. These are my favorite gems because they're kind of more iridescent. If I can get a couple of them out. And we'll add those to the center of our flowers. I like to push it down with my finger to kind of suck up any extra glue. We're going to throw a little bit of glue on the bottom here. And we're going to throw this on our card. And then I will put an acrylic block on top. Just to hold it in place. Let's get these all closed up so I don't spill them. Here we go. So we have another card, but I thought maybe we could add some red berries to tie in some more of the red. So let's just go ahead and add, I'm going to add some glue, 3 berries there. We'll put a berry there. Let's just see. I just cut out a couple of berries. This is out of the telephone cardstock so that it matches. And so we just need just a little bit more color. I didn't want to use red flowers. I wanted the gray, the fog, to just be the shining part of this. We'll put hue here. And we'll put 2 here. And I think they fill in upside down in my little bin here. These are little hors d'oeuvre trays that I just got at the dollar spot that I thought are perfect to just hold. And there we go. Oh, I guess I need a little more glue right there. Put that back at its place. There you go. And there we go. We got card number 2, idea number 2, idea number 1. Again, to create a background and make a dark wintry sky. And idea number 2, to use it with a stencil and direct to paper to create your own mat. And then use a little bit to embellish your die cuts. And then finally, we have one more card here that we're going to work on. And I need to grab the paper. What we're going to do for this one is combine a little bit and do a little bit of what we've done before and do a little bit different. So what I'm going to do is I just have a piece of, this is a card base, and I just have an old embossing folder, a Swiss dot embossing folder. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use a brayer, just a plain old brayer. And I'm going to really ink it up as much as I can. And we're going to brayer it on the folder. See, you won't see much because it's a gray ink. And the reason we're going to brayer it on versus going direct to it is you get a little bit smoother finish. If you take the ink pad and you go directly to your embossing folder, you're going to have a funnier finish. It's more splotchy, I guess would be the best word for that. So we're going to do that, and then I'm going to do this off camera quick. But I'm going to go ahead and just put the cardstock in carefully, and I'm going to quickly go run it through my die cut machine. I'll be right back. Okay, so now that I ran that through, we will get this out and look at it and see what you think. I love how light it is. It's super light, but it adds dimension, and then all those little dots are white. So we're just going to use this again as another subtle background for our card. So I pre-cut, of course, again, a bunch of dies from my stash out of just white cardstock. And these are just birch trees. And I thought we'd make just a nice little fun winter card. And what we're going to do again here is we're going to paint with our fog ink. So I'm going to put some here. I'll put it on an acrylic block this time. I'm going to water it down just a hair. You could also do this with the re-inker. And we're going to grab a little paintbrush. Just any old one. I just want something with kind of a fine tip. And we'll get it in here. And birch trees are not white, obviously. So we're just going to go in and we're going to add some color here and there. And there's no rhyme or reason, you know, nature isn't perfect. So you just go in and make some slots. There are a few little embossed lines, detail lines in, and so you can use that too. And you just want to go in and you want to paint it a little bit, and it's going to give you that little bit of a birch tree look without having to do ink blending. You know, sometimes we can't, with that little tiny brush, you can't in. So go ahead and don't worry, you know, use your inks to paint some details in. And we're just going to do a little bit here. I might need a little bit more. It looks like we might need a little bit more. And then we'll get this. Just want some just color. And then I took scissors and cut off one of the branches for this one, so that would be a little bit different. So we didn't have three of the same branch. And this is just a very subtle way to add some color and use your inks. All right, let's get that out of the way. And then we're just going to line this up here on our card. So I didn't quite line up, my dots aren't quite perfect. So let's just cut this down a little bit. We'll give it a little bit of a border. So we'll cut this down to, let's cut down, I want to cut this so it's the polka dots. So I'm lining up the polka dots with the right side of my trimmer. And then we can go ahead and do that all around the sides. I'm not really measuring, I'm just cutting it down, lining it up so that the dots are in there. I think we're going to cut those dots actually off. All right, let's get those pieces. Before we attach this to the card base, though, we're going to go ahead and put our card together. So we're going to lay out our tree. Actually, I think this one's going to be here, and then we're going to lay, you got one here, and we're going to just vary them in different heights. Let's put this one more towards the center, and then we'll put this guy here. I'll make him kind of shorter. So let's use our liquid glue, and we want to use our liquid glue for this because with the dots it'll stay better than with adhesive, in my opinion. And just add a few dots to the branches. All right, my tweezers here. Look at that. I'm going to line that up at the top. Actually, we're going to cut it off, so we'll line. All right. Before I push it all the way down, let's get this one maybe behind it for some dimension. Okay, got that there. And then I'm going to put this down on top to get him to dry while we put our other couple ones in. Alright, got one more here. And I'll put him down just a little bit, too. I'll get him glued down, and then we'll make this guy the real short guy. Oh, of course I had to drop it on the floor. Hope you have been enjoying Inktober and learning everything about inks. I have been having fun watching all the different videos and people share their ideas. So, all right. So I got those, just flip those over, cut those off. Now, I'm going to go with more of a bold sentiment here. And the reason we're going to do that is because I want a very, this is going to be just a thinking of you card. So I have the thinking of you stamp from the Build a Butterfly with Sentiments add-ons. We're going to go ahead and grab our black Eclipse ink. Eclipse black ink here. Throw that up in the corner here. It doesn't matter if it's super straight because we're going to go ahead and cut it out. So let's get that in there. I may need to re-ink my pad here because I think I accidentally left it open, so I might have to stamp it a couple times here. There we go. All right. And let's cut that out. I just line up my sentiments. I use the bottom of my grid, and then I just line up my sentiments with this, the edge of my clear piece. And that guarantees me to kind of have the same spacing all the way around. This out of the way here. All right, we're just going to put this down here. Put a bunch of glue on there. Put that down right about here. And then we're going to go ahead and add this to our card base. And we're going to leave just a little bit of white border around the edges, so we're not doing any mats on this. We're just going to leave it as is. And then what would a winter card be without a pop of color and a bird, right? So we're going to grab, and this is just a basic die from my stash. I cut it out of the telephone cardstock. We're just going to stick him right here. I'm going to represent a cardinal, and then we've got that to go. So there you go. We've got 3 cards made using different ways of using fog ink. One is to use a brayer and put it on the back of an embossing folder. Second way would be to paint your sentiments using a little bit of water and a paintbrush. You can also use a blending brush and a stencil to make a background with that, and a detail brush to ink up your die cuts, direct to paper to create your own matching mats, and a blending brush to create a night sky and some extra, see if I can get those all on camera here, some extra detail along the edge. So thank you for joining me, and I hope you enjoy the rest of Inktober. Bye.